here's Harrison Crandall with these great images that were all over, as you said, all over the 50 states. And last night, as I was looking around in the gallery with the Crandall show up, he really did tell a visual story as well, and that compiled with this verbal support probably was sort of the double-sided impetus that people needed.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
I really
interesting
love it.
that you mentioned double-sided, because I've been thinking about this more and more. I think Hank was living in his art world in what I call a border world, because in his photographs, which he did many of, and he made most of his bread and butter with the photographs in the studio, because he had to do real photo postcard, he was putting people into those photographs to a great extent: climbers, fisher people, recreationists of all sorts, people with horses, men and women and horses in great attire in the mountains, in the wildflower fields. So he was emphasizing the connection, the human connection to the park, the recreational aspect of wild nature, if you will, in the valley here. Yet on the other side, if you look closely at his oil paintings, they're mostly wilderness scenes. There might be the odd road in there on one or two of them, but most of them are absent of people. And I think that it's quite clear that the Teton Range was Hank's ideal landscape, his sacred space, as we would now refer to it. And so in the thing that he thought most about, which was his landscape paintings, he was keeping nature more or less wild. But the photograph world was to help promote the park. It's a great place to come and visit and spend your time.
Oh, and this is why we should preserve it, so people can continue to do this.
And so people can come here and have their own Teton experience, like he and his family did those many, many years living here and having a homestead and a couple studios, living out basically their whole lives here from the early 1920s forward.
Wonderful. Well, the biography is amazing. I'm going to hold it up here again. It's brand new, and it's a really comprehensive book full of images, just like the cover, very bright, very Hank. What's next?
Yeah, well, the publisher of this book, Schmitt, is graciously agreed to do my next book, which will be on national park souvenirs. And so I hope to take out of the drawers in the many museums in the park system some of the great old antique souvenirs, and bring the whole story up to date with some of the modern ones, and give people a sense that they can enjoy their souvenirs.
Yes.
And that it really, in the early days, was an art form in its own right, with sterling souvenir spoons and enamel bowled souvenir spoons, sand art. So there were lots of different artisans working on souvenirs, and so I want to highlight that in the next one.
And then I hear that there might be a little bit of work with the park in really restoring the Crandall studio, and we're maybe going to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's very early, of course, but
it's always early, but
it's always been my dream, and I've been telling Herb and Keith over the years,
yeah.
I'm going to keep working on this till it happens. But there's a nice room in the back of the Crandall studio building at Jenny Lake, which is now the park's visitor center at Jenny Lake, and I'd like to see that have a nice exhibit with Crandall art in it and some of the artifacts of the original Crandall studios. So we'll keep working on that, and it looks like that we have an opportunity that maybe all the planets will be in the correct orbit now, that with the book out and some new plans going on in Jenny Lake, that we'll actually get that done, and we're very hopeful.
Wonderful.
And I'll keep working on it till it does happen.
And what if new Crandall pieces come out of the woodworks, paintings and photographs alike? What happens then? Do we have a second compilation, or are you still interested in what?
Oh, sure. I'm very hopeful. As the second phase of this research project is that now that the book is out, people can see the art from the beginning of his career to the end of his career and get a sense of the scope of it. There are going to be lots of people saying, hey, I have a painting or a photograph on my wall, and they're going to take a picture of it and email it to me. My email's in the book. And we're going to start to collect up previously unseen images that have been sitting has honored parts of people's homes for many years, and maybe they'll agree to let us make them public in the second edition.
Edition 2, you heard it here. Edition 2 might take another 8 years, but
hey, as long as
we'll
it gets
try.
done.
That's right. That's right. Well,
So send in your pictures.
thanks so much for doing this important work. It's for somebody like me. I collect and I sell the images. I want to preserve Western culture and especially the culture of Jackson Hole, and this will be an immense help and resource for myself and other people like me and people who are interested in the Valley and interested in Harrison Crandall.
And I think that, for the generation of folks that have been living here for a large part of their lives, this will be a way to reintroduce them to this interesting piece of the history of the Valley and the family and homesteading. And then for the new generation just coming on, it'll be a way to introduce them to
preserve the
an important
stories
part
so
of the
that,
story of the park and of the